Amigas y amigos de Pogopedia, BLUR nos va a estar visitando el próximo noviembre en el Primavera Sound con un nuevo álbum bajo el brazo llamado The Ballad of Darren, el noveno disco de la banda, y tuvimos la suerte de escucharlo y de hablar un rato con Dave Rowntree, el histórico baterista de BLUR, y esto es lo que nos estuvo contando.
Well, here we are in the week after the amazing Blur shows in Wembley. I mean, the pictures and the videos are unbelievable. So, how was your experience with that?
It was a really magical weekend, actually. Everybody's very close. There's a lot of people there. I don't know how many thousands, 60, 70, 80, 90,000, I don't know. But you could see everybody's face in the audience. It's important as a performer that you see the effect that your performance is having on, the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Often in these festivals where you go on at midnight, so it's already dark. It's in a field, so they're all stretched out. You might, if you can see anybody at all, it's like the first three rows. So you maybe see 100 people out of the 60,000 that have come to see you. Everybody was smiling, everybody was dancing, everybody had their hands in the air. Just wonderful, really, really magical. Sort of once in a lifetime experience, really. Well, maybe not once in a lifetime.
Well, we hope
get
not.
a taste for it now.
We as Argentinians, we have a sense of what it means to play in Wembley as a mythical stadium and all that. But you as a British, can you tell us what it means to play in Wembley?
Well, it's one of those venues, like Madison Square Garden in New York or the Budokan in Tokyo, that have a kind of mystique beyond the kind of physical building. They're talked about largely because of the sporting things that go on there. They're talked about as the road to ... the road to Wembley, the road to Madison Square Garden. People talk about that kind of thing as if they're not just a building, but they're a kind of destination and aspiration. So it's one of those. I'm sure there's one of those in every country.
Well, and now you are not going to stop. You have a world release by the end of the month. The Ballad of Darren is going out on July 21. I want to make this question in the good way. It seems like Blur is big enough just to go on tour without new music. So I want to ask you, where does the need to make the Ballad of Darren come from?
Well, you're right. We don't need to do it. We didn't need to do Wembley. Nobody would criticise us if we never played another gig, if we never put out another record. So, in a way, that frees you up to be quite choosy.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd have started recording the album and it hadn't really been any good, just wouldn't have released it. Nobody would have ever known that would have been that. Nobody would have gone, my God, why haven't they released another record? Those bastards from Blur. Why don't they insult me with their release schedule or lack of? The idea was brought to us about 4 years ago, actually. Would you like to play Wembley Stadium? We think you have a good crack at selling out a night at Wembley Stadium. So we thought about it and thought, well, we'll give it a go, But then for one reason or another, it just didn't happen. COVID, hit and, the aftermath of COVID, and there aren't very many big venues in London, in the UK, actually, as it turns out. So all of those were full for all of the dates it was possible to put on shows for a couple of years. I mean, literally a couple of years.
So what comes first is the Wembley thing, and then the album.
Yeah. What came first for everything was the idea of playing Wembley Stadium. We got agent called us, said he'd been approached by the Wembley authorities, and they were interested in putting Blur on. Were we interested in doing it? We were. Yeah, absolutely. And so that took us up to it took a while to put that tour together. When we finished doing all of that, there's a lot goes into putting on a tour. You don't just decide to do a tour. It magically happens, you know. It's weird. There's a lot of work you have to put into making sure it's all going to work, you know. So that took us up to the end of last year, really, last December. That was when we got back together again and started making music together, and it was still, you know, still fun. So we thought, well, and that it just kind of grew, really. It grew into an album. We actually ended up recording far more material than we're releasing now. You know, we started about 25 songs. We were seriously considering doing 2 albums, but you know, that turned out to be a little too ambitious. The difficult choice in it all was what to leave off the album. We decided only to do 10 tracks. We thought that's a good, you know, that's a good kind of boundary to set. This out of all of this material, to pick the best 10. That kind of concentrates your mind, really, in an interesting way.
Well, I heard the record.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right.
Congratulations. It's really beautiful. I kind of feel like it's the first grown-up or adult Blur album. It has that feeling. I don't know if you agree, but I want to ask you if you can hear this sound in the previous records, or you think you are opening a new game with this, with the Ballad of Darren.
I think every album is different to the last one, really. That's kind of part of who we are. We don't have to work at that; it just happens. I think this is one of the albums where there's the most kind of cohesion between the songs. Yeah. Really, there's
a nostalgic vibe around everything.
Yeah,
it's really strange because it's kind of nostalgic, but it doesn't seem to be an album that looks into the past. It's looking into the present, I think.
You know, you make the music you make on the day you make it, because that's where your head is when it was your turn. You know what I mean? I turn up. Now we've got to do the drums for this album, for this track. We've got to do it now.
It's the first Blur record that you made with a solo album in your career. Was that experience bouncing in there, or you think that your dynamic is the same?
So that has definitely helped. That has definitely helped my musicianship, absolutely. The more music you make, the better a musician you are, in my experience. So yes, that definitely helped.
Here in Argentina, we are waiting for you. You are heading Primavera Sound in November. So something you want to say to us, to the Argentinian fans?
We've always had a great time in Argentina, and we can't wait to be back. You know, I think it's the first show we ever played in South America. I think was Argentina, certainly one of the first. So it's always like a homecoming for us. The food is just sensational. Fans are just extraordinary. The shows have always been great. I very nearly bought a flat in Argentina after we played there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I fell so in love with the place, with Buenos Aires. I had such a wonderful time. The people were so amazing. I was like, I've got to spend more time here. So I looked into buying a flat, an apartment. Unfortunately, that turned out to be quite a difficult thing to do. So, you know, who knows? Maybe this time I actually will buy the apartment. Who knows?
Yeah, we hope so. Thank you, Dave, so much.
My pleasure.
You're amazing.
See you.
My pleasure too. See you.